I recently rewatched the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. In the third film, The Dark Knight Rises, Batman decides to engage in a very risky mission to try to save Gotham City from nuclear destruction at the hands of a madman named Bane. At this point in the film, Batman has already been roundly defeated once by this villain, and so the likelihood of his success in his second attempt seems low. There's a moment just before Batman puts his plan into motion where he tries to persuade Selina Kyle, otherwise known as Catwoman, to help him save the city. Selina rejects his proposal and decides to flee, trying to get clear of the bomb's blast radius. Before she drives away, she pauses and tries to convince Batman to come with her. Bruce Wayne has already given so much. He's given up love, friendships, his family, his body, his health, his wealth. Everything that someone can give, Batman has given it time and time again to save a city that seems determined not to be saved. In her final plea, Selina says, "Come with me. Save yourself. You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything." Batman replies, "Not everything. Not yet." We are concerned about the nature of giving today, concerned about its scope, about its cost, disturbed by its demands. And isn't this reasonable? Who has an infinite amount of things to give? Who can keep up with constantly meeting the endless wants and needs of the world? And should I not have a right to myself, to having a few things for me? My pleasures, my time, my comfort, myself. And some people we know will take and take and take and take and then take again. And we can't spend our lives being run and controlled by people who are black holes of selfishness and self-centeredness. And so, in this clear-sighted and enlightened time in which we live, we have begun to boundary people. And boundary their needs, and boundary responding to them, to boundary giving itself, to even boundary perspectives that would teach us or encourage in us that particular form of unhealthy, boundaryless giving. Enter this distasteful book, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Public enemy number one for the eradicate unhealthy giving crowd. The Giving Tree tells a scandalous story of a tree who loved a boy and who gave and gave and gave, and a boy who loved himself and who took and took and took. At first, the tree gives in a way that is proportional to what she can reproduce. She gives leaves for playing and limbs for swinging and apples for eating, but eventually the boy grows. And the man that he becomes is no longer satisfied with gifts small and simple. He needs growing gifts to meet growing needs. And so the tree provides an income for the man by giving all her apples for him to sell. And the tree provides a home for the man by giving all her branches to him so that he can build a house. And when he is old and sad, the tree provides a boat for the man by allowing him to chop down her trunk so that he can sail far away. And at the end of the man's life, the tree, who is now but a small stump because she's given the man everything she has to give, finds a way to give one more time by allowing the man to sit on her and rest. This story is unpalatable today. The initial replenishable giving, fine. Leaves and apples given in reproductive proportion will grow back. But all the apples, all the branches, the whole trunk, no. It's unhealthy. It's maybe unwise. Honestly, maybe the tree is in an abusive relationship. She's codependent, and the boy is her enabler. She needs to differentiate herself. And maybe you feel this way hearing this story, holding in mind the horrible ways that humans do sometimes treat one another. Maybe even the ways your gifts and your giving has been taken for granted and abused. Some feel these things so strongly they've actually taken to editing this book, changing the story and modifying the ending. One well-meaning author has written a fairly popular revision of this story titled "The Tree Who Set Healthy Boundaries," an alternate ending to the giving tree. To read the revised version, you simply start reading the original giving tree and see the tree give the boy leaves and limbs for climbing and apples until you get to the part where the boy asks for the tree's branches to make a house. In the revised version, when the boy asks, instead of giving her branches, the tree says no. And she begins to tell him off. "No, you can't have my branches," she says. "You take and take and take and take and never give," she says. "You don't care about how I'm feeling, and you're a bad friend," she says. And the boy is taken aback, and he's sorry, and he learns empathy, and he asks about how the tree is doing, and he contents himself with the gift of apples and becomes a baker and opens a pie shop, and he grows up, and he never cuts the tree down. And they have a wonderful, emotionally healthy friendship for many years. And future generations play in the branches of the tree. And to drive the moral of the story home, the revised version ends with this reflection from the tree. "And as each generation played in her strong old branches, the tree often thought back to the fateful day when the boy had asked her for a house. In truth, she would have gladly given him her branches to build one, but then she would have had nothing left, not for herself nor anyone else. Setting healthy boundaries is a very important part of giving. It assures you'll always have something left to give." Well, there we are. The matter has been heard. The story's been corrected. The end. I don't know if you've done much thinking recently about the life cycle of trees. They start small, some seed or nut or acorn, and nestled into the grace of the ground, they grow, and they grow, and they grow, even the smaller ones into such a stature that dwarfs their humble beginnings, and then they stand for many years in the strength of their stature and stability. But after a time, their strength inevitably runs out, and their pride declines, and they begin to bend and bow and break, falling in slow motion over many years back down to the earth. And usually at some moment, maybe a great storm, or the persistence of a busy beaver, or a saw's ring-ding-ding, the tree is definitively struck down, bringing it back down to the ground. And when the debris is cleared away, all that remains is the final resting form of the tree, its stump, humble and weak, and whispers of what it once was. All trees end up this way. There is no tree that avoids becoming a stump. Sure, practically you might say humans can dig up a tree and put a hole in a wood chipper or something. But human manipulation of a tree's life cycle doesn't really change the point that I'm making. And honestly, a tree still becomes a stump in a wood chipper. It just becomes one and stops being one very, very fast. Wood chippers aside, all trees become stumps one way or another. There's no avoiding it or escaping it or outsmarting it. There's nothing to be done about it. There's only something to be done about the manner in which the tree becomes a stump. This is one thing that criticisms of the giving tree get obviously wrong. In the updated ending, the tree doesn't wither or decline. Once the tree puts up its healthy boundaries around the boy, she seems to secure an enduring life. The book ends on a stumpless, happily ever after. But that's not real. That's not the reality of this world. In truth, even in the revised ending, if we could turn just a few more non-existent pages, the tree ends up as a stump anyways. Maybe this time, just not through giving, but perhaps through the randomness of some terrible wind, or the heat of a forest fire, or simple rot and decay. And if all trees end up as stumps, is the tree in the story unhealthy for simply choosing the manner in which she becomes a stump? Is she foolish for thinking that, given the inevitable reality, there are certain circumstances in which it not only makes sense, but maybe is even right to choose to become a stump chronologically sooner than she would have if she had lived a life that was solely concerned with her own preservation? In other words, are there any situations in which it is not unhealthy, but rather right and good to choose the manner and the timing of my being cut down? I'm not talking about cheap or flippant situations. I'm not talking about allowing oneself to be cut down to meet some spurious demand or to satisfy the lusts of some flimsy person. I'm talking about the things in life that really matter. The needs that are written on every human heart. The longings that, when left unmet, make life feel as though it isn't worth living. I'm talking about requests of ultimate importance and existential crisis, requests that call forth responses that are not codependent, but rather are courageous and sacrificial, as they say, you can cut something down in my life in order to meet that great need of yours. Like when the boy asks for a house. To want a home is not some cheap, selfish ask. It's a longing that is bound up with some of our most basic human instincts and essential human needs. To ask for a home is to seek out belonging and peace and a place to love and to be loved. Life is meant to be lived in and out from a home. And so when this boy, this only boy who she loves, comes and asks her to help him find a home, it is right and good and kind and courageous for the tree, knowing that she is one day going to be without branches anyways, to choose now in sacrificial love to give up her branches early in order that the great need of this boy might be answered. If only our need was as simple and straightforward of the building of one house. What kind of house could be built that would meet all of our needs? What kind of house can you build for people who don't feel at home with themselves? What kind of bed can you make for someone who's forgotten how to rest? How can you build a roof over what's going on inside someone's head? How do you find people who feel lost even when they know where they are? And what fruit can be eaten that can heal a poisoned soul? What shade can shield me from the scorching heat of my slavery to the cravings of my body? What taste could touch the tongue that would go down better than the bitter sweetness of my own selfishness? What leaf, turning and overturning, could fall into our hands making it okay that so many of our dreams haven't. And when we are lowered into the ground, what green and growing thing has power to bring us back up out of the ground with it? Where on earth can we go to get all of these needs met? If only we were like the boy and had a place where we could go in our hour of need, and someone would provide for us all of these things. But where could we possibly turn? What tree in this wide world could tend to the depth and the number and the severity of everything that ails us? What tree could be chopped down to meet our needs? There is such a tree, and his name is Jesus Christ. For though God's Son began before his Father as just a tender shoot, a root in a dry ground, he grew up into a towering cedar planted on a high, high mountain. And you could be nourished in his heights, flocking to and nesting in his stature. And you can be healed by his leaves, which wipe away and cover every loss and failure and pain. And by his righteous branches, he can build you a house, overcoming all obstacles to offer you a place of true belonging and home. And at the end of the day, when you are tired and need to rest, you can sit down on the stump of Jesse. And all of these things are made available to you not just because God's Son is a tree that can meet your needs, but because God's Son is a tree that was willing to be chopped down so that he could meet your needs. For the cross of Jesus Christ is a living, giving tree. In sinful ground, he was cut down to give his gifts to me. A tree that bleeds to meet my needs I never thought I'd see. Christ crucified, the Lord that died, a living, giving tree. A final thing that people don't like about the giving tree is how ungrateful the boy is in response to all the tree's costly gifts. People who make this criticism don't understand what sort of story they're reading. Some stories exist to show us the ideal world, the world the way we wish it was. A world, for instance, where people are grateful. Some stories, however, exist to show us the world as it actually is and how it can somehow become beautiful anyways. The boy in the story is ungrateful because people are ungrateful. We are ungrateful. We are actually not very much like the tree in this story. We are very much, however, like the boy. God's Son cut down for us, and we really can't be bothered to stop for even a moment just to be with God and say, thank you. And yet, does it not somehow in a strange way make the story more wonderful to know that Jesus knew you'd be ungrateful and he died for you anyways? That he knew there was some provision in the gift that he was giving that would cover even your ingratitude for the gift. All our giving today is judged under a rubric of the logic of healthy giving. How much I can give and still have stuff for me. Is this recipient worthy of the gift? And so on. But this logic knows not the power of God. For with God, a gift given in and unto extremity is lit with burning spiritual power to give until there's nothing left and then somehow discover that there is more. More to cover our ingratitude. More to contend with our ignorance. More to love the unlovable. more even to reverse death, to turn stumps back into trees. And so there's more for you today at the cross of Jesus Christ. More to see, more to ask for, more to receive, and more, maybe one day, maybe today, to be grateful for. To sit at the foot of God's giving tree, to look up in humble, quiet, saving awe, and to say, thank you for being cut down for me. And having been cut down, I will build my life out of every gift that you've given. I'll heal myself with your leaves, and I'll feed myself with your fruit, and I'll make my house out of your branches, and I'll let your body take me to a faraway place, and I'll sit upon your stump, and I'll rest and be with you, because no one has loved me or has given to me like you have. And when that happens, the giving tree, God's version of the book, will be complete. And it will be our favorite book to read. Indeed, the only book we'll ever want to read. And in a new day, and in a new place, we'll sit in the shade of a great tree, and we'll read this book to our children and to our children's children, and we all really will live happily ever after the end. Amen.